Welcome to Future Energy Insights, the podcast series that explores the future of sustainable innovation, brought to you by the World Future Energy Summit. The rapid expansion of data centres in the GCC, and in particular AI-ready data centres, is focusing attention on their energy needs. With many clients expecting low-carbon options, it means there's an increasing demand around use of clean power for data centres. In this episode, we'll explore viable pathways towards clean energy use for data centres, what's possible today, and how thinking is changing to prepare for their energy needs in the future. I'm Rob Jones, partner at B2B Connect, and joining me for this episode are Michel Saab, General Manager of Emerge, a joint venture between Masdar and EDF Group, and Sujit Nair, Director of Product at Moro Hub. Michel, Sujit, thank you for joining us today. Let's start with a question about where both of your companies are up to in terms of both powering a data center or building a data center. So, Sujit, if I start with you, if you could just say a little bit about Moro Hub and the current situation with your data center.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for having us here. So, quickly on the Moro Hub. Moro Hub was started in 2017. Moro Hub is completely owned by Dubai Electricity and Water Authority. It was formed with an objective of providing digital transformation services across the government entities and semi-government entities within UAE. Moro Hub, over a period of last 7 years, evolved into a full-fledged IT service provider, mainly offering cloud and data center services. Currently, we have multiple data centers. Collectively, we have close to 30 megawatt worth of IT load capacities, 4 data centers altogether.
Emerge is a clean energy provider. We help businesses reach to their sustainability goals while reducing their energy consumption. We're based in UAE and Saudi Arabia. Today, we have more than 100 megawatt of installed capacity in operation in the region, and we have more than 250 megawatt of total capacity in development and construction and development. And one of these 100 megawatt is a data center. So we are serving a Khazna data center in Abu Dhabi with a 7 megawatt solar PV plant currently in operation. I would like to mention that we offer full turnkey solution. So we offer financing, engineering, execution, and long-term operation and maintenance to our clients, whereby they will benefit from reduced energy, cost of energy, and reach their decarbonization goals without any technical or financial burden.
Okay, thank you. So we're seeing a proliferation of data centers here in the UAE and in Saudi Arabia. We're recording this, 2 months after President Trump came over, and there were announcements in the region, again, both in the UAE and in Saudi Arabia, about large-scale data centers being built in the near future. So, Sujit, if I can ask you as a starting question, how are data centers balancing that growing demand for digital services with the needs for, as customers want, for clean energy, for low carbon, particularly in an AI era?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and is kind of something which we have to very carefully calibrate and design our data centers accordingly, right? So we basically do a kind of lot of service within our customers. We sort of work with the research providers and all. We know one thing for the fact is that, the demand is growing. The demand is growing in a manner that every quarter, every half yearly, when you try to do the assessment that what could be the possible requirement for next 2 years or 3 years, the number is increasing, right? Initially, when we did a survey and all, the kind of the growth rate, the CAGR was at 10 to 12%, which rapidly changed to 14 to 15%. And I believe now, with more and more AI technology coming, with more and more use cases being adopted by the enterprises, the growth rate is again increasing. So where we currently we stand in terms of our analysis is the growth rate is almost 20 to 25% year on year. So the way we plan is that, we plan in terms of expanding our data centers in small segments, which helps us to sort of adopt the right technology and keep working in the back end with our partners, with our, the customers and all, to keep a check on what is the kind of expansion would be needed in the immediate 12 to 18 to 24 months. And accordingly, sort of, we take a call on that.
Is that hard to predict, though, or forecast?
It is very hard to predict. It is very hard to predict. I mean, on a very high level, we can predict that this is the kind of approximate requirement. The challenge comes is that with that number of power, designing the data centers and making sure that whatever the investment you're making to those data centers, you're getting the right returns is the biggest question, right? I mean, for the sake of building, we can build, big data centers in a single shot and all. But again, the challenge would be is that the technology which you're using for the cooling, for the power, for the temperature, for the humidity management, for the monitoring aspects and everything, this is where the real challenge comes, right? And as I said, these domains within the technology landscape is also rapidly changing. There's a lot of enhancements and involvement happening, innovation happening.
And for you as a clean energy provider, customers increasingly, every time I talk to somebody about data centers, the customer wants clean energy or as low carbon as possible. That is also a challenge.
Exactly. I mean, our customers are looking for mainly two things. One is clean energy because they have decarbonization goals, they have sustainability KPIs. And second is cheaper energy. And third is also important for them, which is a guaranteed production of energy, which is clean in our case. So we need to provide these three, let's say, targets for our clients. And we see this an increasing demand. Now, the good news is that technology has also evolved on the production side, as it is on the efficiency side, on the power consumption side. We also have seen improvements on the generation side, and that has led to cheaper megawatts produced. So to meet these high demands of power, the power needs of data center, we need also land to be able to generate. And today in the UAE, in the region, solar is the predominant source of clean energy that could lead to attractive rates and that could answer the question of affordable clean energy.
And the tiered uptime that's expected, that must add an extra demand in terms of reliability. So again, you talked about batteries, and we're seeing, as you've mentioned, the tipping point where batteries are beginning to, the cost is coming down. So that becomes a viable option for you as well in data centers now.
Absolutely. So we have both. I mean, as a company, we offer both solutions, on-grid and off-grid. On-grid, you rely on the grid to give you power during when the sun is not shining. And in the off-grid cases, you need battery storage, so you can store battery in the day and use them in the night. So we do offer both. Of course, in the off-grid case, you need even more solar because you need to have not only solar for the immediate use, but to store for the night use. So you need even more space for the off-grid solution.
Okay. Is Moro Hub, is your data center also using battery storage? Because I know that you're a clean energy power user.
Right. So we don't have native battery storage, right? So we are completely fed directly from the solar power, the Diva-based solar power plant, right? So we don't have as such any battery within. We need not to because they have it. So Diva has it. From where we are getting fed, they have all the battery mechanisms, the storage facilities. So we don't get into energy storage and everything.
AI is the driver now, and we see a huge deployment of data center. I mean, the plans, and every day we hear in the news about plans of data centers being deployed in the region, especially in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. And this is definitely putting challenges, because the utilities cannot cope with such growth, with such increase in demand. And as I said previously, we're talking about sometimes hundreds of megawatt added in one data center. We even talk about gigawatt data centers today. So the challenges are to be able to supply these data centers with energy. The beauty of distributed solar, which I would like to also mention, that today we can install a plant quite faster than the utility can do for greening. The utility could take a while because utilities require many gigawatts to be installed and even distribution network to be provided. It's possible. It's not easy, of course. Again, we need land, we need the willingness, we need the regulations to also allow it. But it's possible to deploy solar plus battery today in a much faster way than the utility could be doing it.
And you mentioned this as well, Sujit, in your earlier answer. So we're talking wheeling here, that idea of being able to take your your power from, well, not necessarily right next to you, but from distributed sources?
So wheeling is a great concept. Of course, wheeling allow you to produce energy anywhere you want, right? So you can get a piece of land in the desert, maybe somewhere far where cost of land is not high, and you can get what you want in terms of size of land, and you can get your energy through this power plant. In this region, the regulations for wheeling are not yet there. So maybe we need to wait a bit, or we need to do changes in regulations to allow this wheeling to happen. I think wheeling is a great enabler of allowing data centers quickly to get access to clean energy, because the case where you have a land readily available next to a data center is not going to be easy, especially if data center are existing, or if data center has to be close to the infrastructure, close to where the fiber optics are.
The change is significant, right? AI is really sort of pushing really to the core, right? In terms of how should we design, right? And as we said, I mean, in any data center, fundamental, the design-wise, the architecture-wise, everything relies on what is a kind of density per rack and all you can provide to your customers. And the decision around the architecture, the decision around the technologies being used to provide probably a standard rack of 8 kilowatt versus an AI rack of almost 35 to 40 to even 50 kilowatt per rack, there's a significant change in the technology needed, right? So the most challenging aspect is in terms of how do you design your data centers to facilitate these two different extreme kind of requirements, right? Air cooling is still widely used, to provide the AI racks and all. But obviously it has its own limitations after certain density range. And that is where the liquid coolings are coming. Now, that technology is also something which is evolving, which is quite a lot of evolvement happening in that technology as well. There's a concept of immersive cooling as well. All these technologies, they have their own pros and cons. Market is still, I would personally say, it's in initial stage. People are still learning about it. People are still evaluating it and seeing that what is the long-term benefit which both the providers like us can achieve, and what are the kind of benefits which we can pass on to our customers as well, right? At this point of time, air cooling is still sort of considered to be the viable financially, and from an availability perspective, all these standards around the uptime and everything is all matured currently only from the air cooling, the traditional cooling perspective, right? If you go with the complete liquid cooling, even currently the uptime certifications and all has its own limitations to give you that kind of certification. It's all about, it's up to the data centers, what kind of technology they want to use it, and what kind of parameters and, the KPIs which they want to focus on, right? And again, liquid cooling is definitely it's a good option. Air cooling is still widely used option. There are more cooling options available, which needs to be evaluated as and when the requirement.
So, Michel, as we start to see data centers increase in terms of their capacity requirements, and we start to go up towards hyperscale, a conversation I've had with quite a few people is some will say you can still do that using renewable energy. Others are saying, no way can you meet those demands with renewable energy. So from your point of view, where are we? And is it something that is achievable or will be achievable?
Well, renewable energy is scalable, so we can scale. But of course, you need land, and the commercial have to also work. If the land is too expensive, then the commercials will not work. And today, solar is the main source of clean energy here. Maybe in the future, we could look at different technologies. Maybe wind will be applicable, or maybe nuclear energy would be, modular nuclear energy could be applicable. We need to see. If it's in design stage, we need to think about choosing the right land or choosing the right location for that data center where the land is available in the absence of wheeling. When wheeling is in the equation, then yes, of course, we can do that. And if we look at long-term the utility will be greener. So if we look at maybe in a decade from now or 2 decades from now, I mean, UAE has committed to net zero by 2050. So yes, the time will come when all the utility or all the energy that we consume in the country will be coming from green resources. But the short-term distributed solar is the answer for tackling the requirements of data centers being green, whether they are small or big.
And you mentioned land. In fact, I think it's been mentioned a few times. So I take it there are trade-offs between where you place a data center, where you place the utility aspect versus the urban centers. You know, is it better to have a data center close to a city, or is it better for it to be remote? Or is it that you don't have a choice, it's where you can put the power?
From my perspective, it's definitely better to have a data center where you have land next to it. Could be used for solar production. But of course, from the data center perspective, maybe such land is too far away from fiber optics or too far away from where they need the data center to be. So I think a discussion has to happen between both parties to select the right location for data center, and even with the government to see whether they can provide infrastructure readily available for such big deployment of data center. And from the solar perspective, the technology has matured and the cost is really cheap today. But if we factor in a high cost of land, then the equation may not work anymore. So we need to look at all the parameters, all the costs, putting them in together, and see if what works better in the decision-making process, if that land works or that land works better. So it depends on the cost of land. And the technology is really, today, I mean, we know very well the cost of the technology. Us as a company backed by two giants, EDF and Masdar, we know very well where to procure the technology, the right technology that will also last for 25, 30 years. So we can benefit from it and supply steady energy to help our customers get their decarbonization goals.
Okay. Can we explore a little bit about future plans that both of you are involved in? So Sujit, if I start with you, you have a data center running. Your future plans are what for data centers?
Oh, our future plan is very exciting to me. I mean, that's probably, to be personally, that is keeping us very busy. We are actually expanding our data center footprint by almost 200%. And we are planning to sort of expand it in next 18 to 24 months.
And do you have the same considerations you have to make in terms of placement, you know, where the land is?
Well, fortunately, in our case, no, because we are DEWA-owned organization. We have the land available very near to the solar park, with a great vision under the leadership of UAE. Currently, DEWA, the kind of solar park which they have is generating almost 5 gigawatts of solar energy, right? So land is not a challenge.
Okay. And Michel, again, how do you see future expansion or future plans going in terms of clean energy provision for data centers?
Well, of course, we would love to power every data center in the region with our solutions. I think we have the right solutions. We have the right business model, which is zero capex for the data center, so they can focus on building the data center, and this is where their expertise is, and running the data center, while we focus on providing them with reliable, clean energy at a cheaper rate. So this is our goal. And so far, we have one data center in operation. Hopefully, we get more. We are talking with many data centers providers, the leading data centers that have big plans in the region, in UAE and Saudi mainly. But we're also expanding in new territories in the GCC. So I think today technology is ready, and the business model we have is really excellent and provides data center clients with the best solutions.
And at the moment, are they grid connected?
The Khazan data center is grid connected, and there are other clients which are off grid, so we can do both.
Challenges in terms of the power or the energy requirements of data centers, again, particularly when you start to bring in AI for planning when it comes to connecting it to the grid. Does it have any impact?
Well, we do. I mean, if we are grid connected, definitely we get all the approvals from TAQA. If it's in Abu Dhabi, if it's in Dubai, we get approval from DEWA. If it's in Saudi, so we do follow the regulations when it comes to grid connected plants. And if it's also off grid, we also, there is another set of regulations we need to follow. There are ways to do everything, but there are also some restrictions on the capacity or net metering. For example, in Abu Dhabi, we cannot do net metering. So all the energy that we produced has to be consumed Therefore, we cannot do 100% if it's grid connected. If the data center is grid connected, we can offset a part of their energy needs, but we cannot offset the full energy need. While if it is off grid, we can do batteries, so we can do more. We can offset up to 100%.
Is grid connected as well? I think it must be actually, mustn't it? Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
So again, that planning is in place in terms of...
It is in place. So we work very closely with DEWA directly, wherein we sort of provide our forecast and everything, and accordingly the infrastructure is provided.
Okay, so let's end with just how you see the future expanding for when it comes to this particular topic, which is providing clean energy for data centers. So for Sujit first, what if we go forward 5-10 years, what do you see the situation being in terms of both data centers and clean energy?
Let me probably answer that in two ways, right? One is what ideally should be done, and again, from what even customers are demanding, right? So good thing is that both kind of requirement coming from the government side, from the regulation side, and even from the customer side, whether they are the actual end customers like enterprises or even the hyperscalers, they all are working towards making sure that whatever the load, whatever the data center requirement, or whatever the power requirement they have it should be renewable, right? Because this is going to contribute hugely towards the saving carbon emissions, right? So every organization we're working with, every hyperscalers we're working with, they all are prioritizing the green energy in their decision making, right? And even they are sort of, I would say, they're ready to spend that premium as well. If at all there is any premium factor, they're even ready to kind of spend that premium to make sure that they use the green energy. So the way we look into it is that our strategy is very clear, that we will build only on the green energy data centers. We are not going to build any data center which will be powered by non-renewable energy. Now, we are very optimistic that our expansion and the support which we're going to get from the government will be tremendously helpful to us to achieve that. And as I said, I think Michel mentioned, there is a UAE net carbon emissions strategy of 2050, which is supporting towards everyone, all the partners, all the members, stakeholders of this ecosystem. So yeah, it's pretty much all the data centers, I'm assuming, down the lane within next 10 years, probably in a decade. I think 90% of the data centers will be running on the green energy.
And for you as well, I mean, it must be quite an exciting prospect in that you're seeing more and more data centers being planned.
It's very exciting, and we would love to be part of the solution. We need communication between all the parties, regulators, data centers, and us. We need to all discuss, find the right way to supply all these data centers with clean energy. We know that the plans are huge, so we need to start talking now. We need to start finding solutions today. It will be great to have solutions for all of us that could benefit the growth of AI, the growth of data center deployment in the UAE and the region, without really stopping it because of maybe not so up-to-date regulations.
Thank you, Sujit, Michel. Thank you for your time on, I think, a discussion of what is one of the hottest topics at the moment in industry, which is looking at how do you start greening data centers, particularly when pretty much every customer is demanding that. This has been a Future Energy Insights podcast brought to you by the World Future Energy Summit.